Obesity is the most...
Space was accessed at time 1003. Fire was engaged at time 1004.
Obesity is the most prevalent, fatal, chronic, relapsing disorder of the 21st century. Obesity is a leading cause of United States mortality, morbidity, disability, healthcare utilizations, and healthcare costs. It is likely that the increase in obesity will strain our healthcare system with millions of additional cases of diabetes, heart disease, and disability. This is from What is Obesity from the obesityorganization.org. Today I want to discuss a major epidemic problem in our country, which is childhood obesity. It's just is the #1 healthcare problem, and it's taken up most of our money and most of our problems. Before we go into obesity, I want to explain briefly what obesity is, how we go about getting it, why it's a problem, and what we can do to prevent it. So go ahead and start out. The ObesitySociety.org defines obesity as simply as having
Glass cell fire reported out at time 1005.
We can all pretty much agree with that. Through a lot of my studies to be a
At this
dietitian,
time, there are no casualties.
I've learned that it's nothing more than having too much body mass index, which is over 30, or being 25 pounds over what your ideal weight is for your height. Okay. Now, some of the reasons that we get fat or obese or overweight, society reasons, and we can see it. There's fast food industries from the 1960s, which we started to increase in the greasy burgers and fries and whatnot. And we all probably remember in the 80s they were smaller, and then we got a lot bigger, and then they threw it out supersized, and everybody wants to supersize it, and they get a Diet Coke. That's really going to help out. It's just sugar with diet written next to it. And then we got the vending machines in the schools. I remember going to the vending machines when I was in school, and they had candy bars, they had chips, they had all sorts of stuff in there. So you've got the alternative to steer people away towards bad health. And then the lines of foods probably aren't too much bad because they have got the unhealthy options as well. Watching TV and playing video games, not getting out there doing enough exercise, and in schools, because of cutbacks in money, are offering less and less actual physical education and steering more towards math and science. So society as a whole is preventing us from getting more fit and more healthy. Some of the internal causes of obesity, we've got food choices. You know, when you can have wheat thins and little squeezed cheese, one of my favorite snacks years ago, instead of having an apple and maybe cut up pepper or whatnot. So we all go home, we've got our little, our comfort foods. Alright, my mother taught me to take a bottle of peanut butter and chocolate chips, and she'd eat it when she was stressed out. And I remember doing that when I was a young PFC in Lance Copel, wondering why I got bigger. Whole jar of peanut butter, probably not going to help out too much. So we've all got our vices. Family, low energy expenditures. In other words, you're not getting enough exercise and you're bringing too much food in. Obviously, mathematically, you're going to gain weight. The Department of Agriculture and foodpyramid.com says the same thing. If you cut the calories and then you exercise more, less is more, you lose weight. Family genetics. If your family's big, then there's probably a good chance that you're going to be steered more towards that as well. Eating patterns. If you're skipping meals, then your body's going to start to go into starvation mode because it thinks food's scarce. Millions of years of genetics doesn't change because the refrigerator has food in it. Parental style. I'm a parent. I remember following my parents' lead. Kid doesn't want to eat his food, you get upset, or he's having problems, you send him to bed without dinner. That's real good. So already before the kid's even an adult, you're messing with his metabolism, screwing his body up by not giving him food. Guilty of it, but I learned fast not to do that. You better go ahead and take your time and allow the child to eat. Family role model. If both your parents just like to scarf down food and they don't exercise and they don't eat healthy, then there's probably a good example that your kids are going to do the same thing. And you might have learned that from your parents. And it's not a negative thing per se, it's just we're doing what we were taught. So we've all kind of seen the snowball effect when you take a snowball and roll it down the hill. It's just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and you're not going to be able to stop the snowball. Once it hits the bottom,
overall,
it
complete department 3 tech 10 tech 1
so
tech.
you want to stop this snowball.
Firefighting, water on the deck.
You see here that the cost on your health because of overeating is affecting our economy. So Social Security, all these things are going to go away because they need to shift money. Medicare in the 1998 was just Medicare alone was $78.5 million towards obesity, treating obesity, and health problems from obesity. And then at 92.6 billion in 2002. That was 7 years ago. It's a lot more now. So these figures here, I pulled off the website from some of the sources, and you could see them from statistics and different sources as well. It's an ongoing problem. In the 60s, they started tracking how many children on average were overweight and obese. The National Center for Health Statistics tracked 4.2 children, all right, out of a large group in the 60s had between the ages of 6 and 11 were overweight. And we probably remember, that might be almost close in some of the schools when you were growing up. Maybe you had about 4 or 5 kids that were overweight out of a couple hundred kids or 1,000 kids. Then in 03-04, it's 18.8% of the children are now overweight or obese. This jumps from 12 and 19-year-olds in the 60s at 4.6% to 17.4%. That's over 350 to 400% for the younger children and the adolescents. That's a huge statistic jump. So this is an ongoing problem. We can see that if the condition is not treated or prevented, you're going to have some other problems. And I'm going to go into detail what they are, but we'll name off a few of them. Insulin resistance, diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1, obviously, I'm just going to explain a little bit of just those two. Type 1, your body can't produce insulin. So you eat the food and you can't regulate it. So typically that person's going to be skinny. Type 2, well, type 1 doesn't make any insulin, so the blood sugar just comes in and your body just burns it real quickly. Type 2 is your insulin just goes crazy. In other words, every time you try to eat something, your body wants to regulate the blood sugar so that way it can lower it back down. It's like running and then your heart accelerates. All right, type 2 can't affect that. So that's why people with type 2 diabetes are typically heavy. They're overweight. Okay, hypertension. You got cholesterol problems from being overweight and obese, which is going to harden your arteries, sleep apnea, and early puberty. If you're a young adolescent or child and you're overweight, your body's going to produce a lot more cholesterol. It's also going to fat is actually what helps grow cells. It's in every cell of your body. So if you got a lot of fat, then that hormone is going to start kicking in, and you're going to go into puberty a lot faster. Men start growing facial hair, women start developing breasts, their hips are going to expand a lot quicker. Treatment of obesity. We need to remember what I talked about, the snowball effect. We need to stop it before it hits the bottom of the hill. So there's different ways that we can do this. Physical activities. We can change the way we eat, and we need to change the way we think about food as not a diet, but just a way of life. And exercise should be a way of life as well, not work. Diet's a 4-letter word, work's a 4-letter word. You want to eliminate it from eating and healthy and exercise. There's some guidelines from the schools, communities, and programs that's put out there to try to help us out.
Secure from Class L Fire Drill, restore all gear.
Promoting a lifelong enjoyment of physical health, physical and social environments, extracurricular activities, and getting your parents involved, getting them into the schools, looking at the physical education program, looking at the health program, as well as getting them involved in intramurals such as coaching and whatnot. Personal training, health services, so that way they can evaluate how people are, stress, tobacco cessation, community programs, and something to evaluate whether it's working or not. Just throwing it out there is not going to help, but allowing people to evaluate it. Lastly, we can get involved. So as parents, as people with children, whether they're yours or you're just a guardian, you want to get involved and know what's going on. You want to get the educators involved so that they can, if they're teaching the health class but they're an English teacher, they know what they're teaching. They're not just running what they know. They're actually getting out there, getting certified. And a lot of these places offer certifications. Getting the community involved as a whole, trying to promote health and fitness through extracurricular activities in your community, such as football and youth sports and different things like that. You can go to actionforhealthkids.org, punch in your state, punch in your school, and you can find out in your community already what's in place for programs to help out your children or for you to get involved in the local community as well. Now, I can tell you that from that snowball effect, it's going to be much easier for you to fix it now. We saw the staggering statistics. An investment in extra time now and helping yourself out and helping your children out is going to save you a lot more money than it would down the road. So if you want a good, smart investment, invest in your children's health now and stop obesity before it starts. Thank you.